Imagine this. You fall asleep. Your body is resting in your bed, but suddenly you find yourself somewhere else, a place that feels strangely familiar. Maybe it's a house you've never seen in real life. Maybe it's a school, a city street, a forest, a strange building with rooms you seem to recognize. And here's the strange part. You've been here before, not in real life, but in other dreams. You know where the hallways lead. You know which door is locked. You even remember parts of the place before you walk into them. And when you wake up, you realize something unsettling. This isn't the first time you've dreamed of this place. In fact, you've returned to it many times, weeks apart, months apart, sometimes even years apart. So the question naturally arises, why do some people keep returning to the same dream locations in their dreams? Is the brain storing a dream world somewhere? Is it a memory, a psychological symbol, or is something deeper happening inside the sleeping mind? Today, we're going to explore what psychology, neuroscience, and sleep science actually say about recurring dream locations. No supernatural claims, no mystical explanations, just what the evidence suggests about how the brain builds, stores, and revisits dream environments. Because when you understand how the mind constructs dream spaces, the experience becomes less mysterious, but often far more fascinating. The phenomenon of recurring dream locations. Many people report recurring dream themes, but recurring dream locations are especially interesting. Some examples people commonly describe include the same house appearing repeatedly, the same school or workplace, a city that doesn't exist in waking life, a specific building with many rooms, a forest or landscape that feels familiar, a place that seems to expand over time. Sometimes the dreamer says something surprising. I know this place better than places in real life. Some even report that each time they return, the location feels slightly more detailed, almost like a map slowly filling in. But from a scientific perspective, we need to ask an important question. Is the brain actually storing a persistent dream world, or is something else happening? To answer that, we need to understand how the brain creates dream environments in the first place. How the brain builds a dream environment. Dream environments are not downloaded from outside reality. They are constructed internally. During sleep, especially REM sleep, the brain becomes highly active in regions involved in visual imagery, spatial memory, emotional processing, and memory recombination. At the same time, the brain areas responsible for logical reasoning become less active. This creates a unique mental state. Your brain becomes extremely good at generating imagery, but less concerned with whether that imagery is realistic. Dream environments are built from fragments of memory. Your brain pulls pieces from many sources: real locations you've visited, places you've seen in movies, childhood environments, imagined architecture, emotional associations tied to places. These pieces are combined into a new environment, not randomly, but through networks of memory and emotion. In other words, dream locations are constructed from your brain's internal library of spatial memories. But that still doesn't explain why some locations return again and again. For that, we need to talk about how spatial memory works. The hippocampus and spatial memory. One of the most important brain structures involved in dreams is the hippocampus. The hippocampus plays a central role in memory formation, navigation, and spatial mapping. Inside the hippocampus are specialized neurons called place cells. These neurons activate when you move through specific locations. For example, one neuron might activate when you're near your kitchen, another when you're in your hallway, another when you enter your workplace.
Together, these neurons create what scientists call a cognitive map of space. This allows you to mentally navigate environments. But here's where it becomes interesting. The hippocampus doesn't only map real environments, it can also simulate environments. During sleep, the hippocampus often replays spatial memories. This process has been observed in animals and humans. For example, when rats run through a maze during the day, the same neural patterns replay during sleep. This replay appears to help consolidate spatial memory, but sometimes the brain doesn't just replay, it recombines. It blends elements of different spaces together. This may create entirely new environments, and if those environments become associated with strong emotional or cognitive patterns, they may reappear in later dreams. Why some dream locations repeat? Recurring dream locations may appear for several reasons. One possibility is memory consolidation. When the brain processes important spatial memories, it may revisit similar environments during sleep. Another factor is emotional significance. Places associated with strong emotions are more likely to reappear in dreams. For example, childhood homes, schools, hospitals, workplaces, houses of relatives. These places are emotionally loaded. The brain may revisit them repeatedly while processing emotional memories. But sometimes, recurring dream locations are not real places at all. They are completely fictional environments. Even then, they can repeat. Why? Because once the brain creates a spatial map for a dream environment, that map can be stored. When similar emotional or cognitive conditions occur during sleep, the brain may reactivate that same environment as a stage for dream simulation. You are not traveling somewhere, you are revisiting a neural map, a place your brain built, and once a map exists, the brain can return to it again and again and again. Not because the place exists outside your mind, but because your brain remembers how to build it, and during sleep, it sometimes chooses to visit it again. The brain reuses dream settings. The brain is an efficiency machine. It prefers to reuse existing structures rather than build new ones every time. Just as filmmakers reuse sets, the brain may reuse dream environments. If a particular dream location becomes associated with certain emotional themes, the brain may return to that environment when similar emotions arise. For example, a recurring dream school may appear during periods of performance anxiety. A recurring house may appear when processing family memories. A recurring maze-like building may appear when dealing with confusion or uncertainty. The environment becomes a symbolic stage. Your brain uses it to simulate emotional scenarios, but the stage itself can persist across many dreams. Why the place feels so familiar? People often say something striking about recurring dream locations. I know the layout, even if the dream location doesn't exist in real life. This familiarity likely comes from repeated activation of the same spatial networks. Each time the dream occurs, the brain strengthens the neural representation of that space. Over time, the map becomes more detailed. This is similar to how familiarity develops in real environments, but in dreams, the environment exists only as a neural model. Your brain has essentially built a fictional place and stored the map. Why some people experience this more often? Not everyone reports recurring dream locations. Several factors may influence this. People who remember dreams more often are more likely to notice patterns. People with vivid visual imagery may generate more detailed dream environments. High emotional sensitivity may also increase dream recall. Stress and life transitions can increase recurring dreams as well. When the brain is processing unresolved emotional themes, it may reuse the same symbolic environments. lucid dreaming and recurring places. Some people who practice lucid dreaming report that recurring dream locations become easier to recognize. When the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming, they may realize, "I've been here before." This recognition can trigger lucidity. However, lucid dreaming does not mean the location exists outside the brain. It simply means the dreamer becomes conscious while the dream environment is being simulated. Why these dreams can feel mysterious. Returning to the same dream location can feel extraordinary. It feels like visiting another world, but the feeling of reality is created by the brain's sensory simulation systems. During REM sleep, the visual cortex is active, emotional centers are active, self-awareness is reduced, and logical